Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey folks, we are back. It's Inside Real Estate with Mike Kruizinga. Website InsideRealEstateRadio.com. InsideRealEstateRadio.com. Time for another insurance segment with our favorite guy in all things insurance, Richard Tonica of the Goosehead Insurance Agency, owner of, by the way. Hey, phone number where you can reach Richard anytime for all of your insurance needs, 817-286-2002. That's 817-286-2002. And remember that number because, trust me, folks, you want a better policy in anything, home, auto, toys, or other, you're going to want to check him out. He can shop over 20 different brands for you, get you the best policy at the best price. Look, I don't know anybody that hasn't gone to Goosehead and said, hey, they've gotten a better price and a better policy that hasn't gotten that. So trust me, you definitely want to go to Goosehead. You want to go to Richard Tonica and get that from him. Today we're going to talk about, with all the, great topic, with all the rains we've had, feels like 40 days and 40 nights of rain here. So let's talk flood insurance. Richard, how you doing over there?
I'm doing well. I think I saw an arc just pass by my house the other day.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the things that when we're talking, when I talk to my customers, I pull up three things. I talk about their home, I talk about their auto, and I talk about flood policy. Because although you may not have ever had a flood in your house,
you don't want one either.
Exactly. Because if you ever do have one, it's not going to be covered by a normal policy. Most people think that that water damage is going to be covered by your policy. It's not. They are anything that's from the ground up that comes into your house and floods your house is going to be a separate policy. If you don't have that coverage or that policy, you're not going to be covered. Your homeowners will not cover it unless you have that policy. So that's one of the things that I talk to all of my customers about is, are you insuring most of your house or are you insuring everything? Because what insurance is really there for is on your worst day, making that worst day not as bad. You don't want an extremely bad day to turn into an extremely bad life where you're paying for all this stuff.
Right.
So,
and guess what? If you still have a mortgage on your house, even if, part of your house is destroyed, you still have to make the mortgage payment.
Exactly.
Even though maybe your insurance doesn't cover the issue,
the repairs or anything else,
yeah,
and you're
exactly.
gonna come out of pocket on that, and that's one of the things that flood insurance helps to mitigate.
Yeah, absolutely. 80% or so of all claims are going to be water related, and so many of those folks, they weren't covered. They didn't have the right water coverage, and just because you're not next to a lake or the ocean or a creek doesn't mean you can't get a water issue there at your house. That's for sure.
And I've had customers, FEMA comes in. FEMA is the one that sets the boundaries for the floodplains.
Right.
And so when they come in, they periodically change designations for different areas.
Yes.
I've had certain customers that have never had a flood policy in their life, never had to have one on their house. Now they do, just because of we change our topography as we add more houses and we come in and we're changing the surrounding areas. We're also changing the runoff of water.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you may not have needed it in the past, but that's not to say that you're not going to need it in the future. And you may think that a flood policy is extremely expensive. It's going to be another $1,000, but it's not. Very rarely. If you're in a floodplain, yes, it's going to be more expensive because you might be just as surprised next year when you have a flood claim as you were this year when you have a flood claim.
Right.
But for the most part, if you're in a area that it's not designated as a high risk, you may still need to look at a flood policy. It's one of the things that, like I said, I promote to every one of my customers. Do all of them take it? Absolutely not. Do a majority of them just pass on it? Yes. But it's at least I'm doing what I think is right for my customers, is to make sure that I present them with all the things that they need in order to cover their assets, because that's what I'm here for. make sure that everything that you've worked so hard in your life for, that it doesn't go away because of a decision to save $50 or $100 here and there.
Right. Yeah, when it hits you, and you want to be taken care of when it does. Yeah, I mean, talking about, FEMA, when we're, out with buyers, buying new houses, we're looking at the surveys of these homes, existing surveys on these homes. Sometimes we need a new survey. But those surveys designate whether or not it's in a particular FEMA flood zone. Sometimes it's not, and if not, then there is no flood insurance required. But if it is in one of the flood zones, then absolutely the flood insurance is required for sure.
Yes.
And it's just mandatory.
Yes.
And so that will have to be taken care of. But like you say, even if you're not in one, you want to be covered, because you're right. Our topography does change all the time as we concrete everything. The water's got to go somewhere.
And you may see all this rain and coming in, and then you just, I'm going to get a flood policy tomorrow. No, you're not. A typical flood policy, you have a 30-day wait. They're not. They're not new to this game where they're just going to, you need a flood policy? No problem. Come on over.
Right.
No, they make you wait 30 days, see if you have a claim or anything else.
Just make sure there's nothing fishy going on there.
They're going to inspect your house. They are going to come out and do their inspection, do their due diligence. And then after that 30 days is up, then yes, you can have your policy, but there is a 30-day wait.
Right. So no fast ones. No fast ones at all. I mean, I had an issue, back when I moved into my place. This was, I don't know, maybe 12, 15 years ago, something like that. I'm actually in one of those warehouses that has a basement. And on one side of the house, there wasn't, when I had moved in, there wasn't a lot of sod on this one side of the house. And so it just rained like you wouldn't believe that year. And one of the window wells filled up with water. It filled up about 3/4 full, eventually cracked the window, broke it. All the water comes flooding in, and it just keeps raining. And so it flooded the bottom level. And I mean, it didn't get too high, maybe mid-ankle, something like that. But
that's too high for me.
Yeah, it's still, I can navigate it in the boat. But yeah, it was just one of those things. And I never thought, I was like, I've never had water in a house before ever, and of course, now I just managed all that myself. I just dealt with it and, took out the carpet. And from that point forward, there's no carpet in the basement. Just decided, what, we're going to, do a stained concrete kind of thing, but, that was an issue where it could have gotten a lot worse, and that could have been an issue where maybe I needed a different policy. Now I didn't make a claim at all. I just, I figured it wouldn't be covered anyway, and I just took care of it myself. But that's probably one of those issues there, that you never foresaw. I never thought I'd have water in my house, ever. I'm not next to a creek. I'm not next to the lake or anything like that. So there you go. That just goes to show you never know what might happen.
No, you don't. And that's what we're here for. We're here to help you navigate through that. You hear all the insurance jingles, the what ifs and all that, but that's really what we do. Is we're here to make sure that you're covered in the case when you need to be.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, look, with all the rain that we've been having, now's a great time to get with Richard and think about water damage. There's different kinds of water damage, and you'd be surprised that your homeowner's policy probably doesn't cover quite a bit of it. Maybe you want to think about a flood policy separately, or just adding additional coverages to make sure you're covered. Because look, folks, if something does happen to you at your home, more than likely it's going to be related to water somehow, some way. And trust me, water is, I tell you, it's a force. Water is a force. It is a destroyer. It really is.
It really is. I've had friends of mine that have come home from vacations to find that they had a busted pipe, and half of their house was absolutely destroyed. And had another friend that when they came home from their vacation, their water heater up in the attic ended up bursting, and it was absolutely, it's amazing how much damage water can do in just a short period of time.
Yeah. And by the way, I hate seeing water heaters in the attic. I really do. It's a very common practice now with the new builds.
Yes.
And sometimes there's even two of them up there in the attic. Ooh, I don't like that. I really don't like that at all. I would rather see them in the garage. But folks, hey, give Richard a call, 817-286-2002, 817-286-2002 for all your insurance needs. With all this rain, now's a great time to check with him, check your water coverage. You might want to need a flood policy separately, but just check everything. If you got toys, motorcycles, boats, RVs, you can check in with Richard. I bet he's got a better policy for you at a better price. Another great insurance segment with Richard Tonica, Goosehead Insurance Agency. Folks, it's Inside Real Estate with Mike Kruizinga. We'll see you in a few.